Now reading UAE plans mandatory military service for males. The United Arab Emirates has begun the process of imposing mandatory military service for adult males to add another layer to the National Defense Force. The country's Prime Minister announced Sunday. The move appears aimed at least in part on feeding more Emirati nations into the Federation's armed forces. The UAE military and police forces depend on foreigners to bolster their ranks. Sheikh said on his official Twitter feed that male high school graduates between the ages of 18 to 30 will be required to serve 9 months, while those without a high school diploma must serve 2 years under the draft legislation. Military service for female Emiratis would be voluntary. The new law adds another layer to the National Defense Force to further protect our nation, secure its borders, and preserve its achievements, said on his official Twitter feed. In separate comments carried by state news agency WAM, the State National Service implants the values of allegiance, loyalty, discipline, and sacrifice among youngs. Sheikh is Vice President and Prime Minister of the seven-state United Arab Emirates Federation as well as the ruler of the Emirate of Dubai. The UAE, which sits across the Persian Gulf from Iran, enjoys warm relations with the United States and other Western powers. A relatively young country, it was formed in 1971 after decades under British protection. Its 7 semi-autonomous have pursued increasingly tighter integration over the years, helped by financial support from the oil-rich capital. The UAE cabinet has endorsed the draft law, which will now be considered by the Federal National Council, largely advisory body. Emirati policymaking is dominated by the federal capital and the commercial hub of Dubai, and there is likely to be little public opposition to the plans in the OPEC member nation. Most of the country's workforce is composed of foreign quest workers, though Emirati leaders have tried to get more nationals into public and private sector jobs. Lidor, a security and political affairs analyst at the Dubai-based Institution for Near East and Gulf Military analysis, said the unexpected initiative could lessen the country's reliance on military personnel from South Asia and other Arab countries. This did come out of the blue, but for a very good reason. The situation in the country demands manpower based solely on Emirati nationals, he said. In the future, there may be trouble in other countries where those who serve in the armed forces now would need to go home, and that would leave a manpower shortage. The UAE military currently has an estimated 51,000 active duty personnel, according to the International Institute for Strategic Studies. Much of its military posture is aimed at deterring potential threats from nearby Iran, despite long-standing trade and cultural links between the two neighbors. The UAE military also has sent troops overseas, including as part of the NATO-led mission to Afghanistan and provide humanitarian relief to Pakistan. Karasik said the military conscription policy is unlikely to be directly aimed at bolstering the armed forces to confront threats from nearby Iran, but it is rather purely an Emirati issue. This helps to bind the country together, he said. Now reading Japan PM calls for frank talks with China. South Korea. Japanese Prime Minister called Sunday for frank summit talks with China and South Korea to help solve historical and territorial disputes that have soured ties between the neighbors. A year of heated arguments have prevented the three from holding any top-level meetings, with Beijing and Seoul accusing Abe of showing a lack of remorse for World War II wrongs. We should hold a summit meeting. We should hold a summit meeting and have a frank discussion. Abe said in an interview on public broadcaster NHK 2 days after Japan's foreign minister called for similar talks. Abe, China's President Xi Jinping, and South Korean President Park Geun-hye all came to power around a year ago, but entrenched positions and growing nationalism in the three countries have preventing them from getting together. Seoul and Beijing were angered by Abe's visit last month to a shrine in Tokyo that counts 14 senior war criminals among the 2.5 million souls in commemorates. China and South Korea see the shrine as a symbol of Japan's wartime aggression in Asia. On Sunday, Abe reiterated he had visited to make a pledge against war, and like other leaders around the world, to pray for those who lost their lives for their countries. I want people to think about whether this is wrong. If they think about it, I think the misunderstanding will go away, he said. To separate territorial dispute over uninhabited islands in the East China Sea, which Beijing and Seoul say have their roots in Japan's early imperial ambitions, have also roiled relations. Abe said a summit should be held all the more because there are these issues, but added that Tokyo would not agree to any concessions over disputed issues as a precursor to discussions. It would be unreasonable if Japan must clear hurdles for summit talks, he said. On Friday, Japanese Foreign Minister said the respective leaders should make efforts to solve their disputes. The call came after Japan brushed off comments by China's envoy to the African Union, in which he branded Abe a troublemaker. I'm now reading seven seriously hurt in Bangkok blast. Military urges end to crisis. 28 people were wounded, seven seriously, in explosions on Sunday at a camp of anti-government protesters in Bangkok. The latest violence in a prolonged political crisis dividing the country and threatening the Thai economy. The explosion comes a day after the military urged both sides to settle their differences in a more than 2 months long dispute, in which protesters are trying to bring down the elected government of Prime Minister. There were 28 people injured from the blast at the Victory Monument. Director General of the Bangkok Emergency Medical Center told reporters among the 7 people were seriously injured. Witnesses said they heard 2 explosions. The first blast I heard was from behind the stage, said who told Reuters television he had been turning out for protest every day. People were looking around. I saw the security guards running after suspects. After 1 minute, I heard another bomb blast. On Friday night, 1 man was killed and 35 protesters were wounded in a grenade explosion in the capital. That takes to 9 the death toll since the protests started in November. They form the latest episode in an 8-year conflict pitting Bangkok's middle class and royalist establishment against poorer, mainly rural supporters of and her brother, the self-exiled former premier. The protesters accused him of nepotism and corruption and aimed to eradicate the political influence on his family by altering electoral arrangements, though in ways they have not spelled out, along with other political reforms. The firebrand leader of the anti-government protest spent much of Sunday leading thousands in a march through Bangkok, demanding that Rain resign, and collecting bundles of cash from supporters in the streets in what has become a trademark of his public appearances. However, there are signs the protest against the government could be running out of steam. The government has allowed protesters to take over key buildings without confrontation, and, crucially, the military has so far remained neutral. Now, all of us need to help each other in taking care of our own nation. Supreme Armed Forces Commander told reporters after Saturday's Army Day parade. The relationship between the government and the army is normal. We need to respect law and order. I myself respect the law, and I respect all sides, and I request that all sides should come together and talk to find a solution, he said. Separately, the Bangkok Post Daily quoted as saying he had no interest in becoming prime minister and acting as mediator. Speculation has been rife that the military might step in to end the impasse, which is beginning to take its toll on Southeast Asia's second-largest economy. The army has staged or attempted 18 coups in 81 years of on-off democracy, but has kept out of the fray this time. Please, my fellow countrymen, please rise up and do our job, which is to stop this wicked government from functioning, said late on Saturday, urging protesters to target government buildings across the country and prevent civil servants from working. But there is little sign that the movement is spreading beyond the capital and into the countryside, where has her political power base. She has called an election on February 2nd, which the main opposition Democrat Party has said it will boycott, even if it contests the election. Most political analysts say Thai Party will almost certainly win. Strong rural support has enabled or his allies to win every election since 2001. The protesters accuse and his sister of corruption and want to step down to make way for an unelected People's Council to push through broad political reforms. The latest demonstrations are the biggest since protesters paralyzed Bangkok in April and May 2010. The movement ended with a military crackdown, and more than 90 people, mostly protesters, were killed. Paralyzed. Pro-government red-shirt protesters have stayed outside Bangkok this time, limiting the risk of factional clashes. I'm now reading China condemns Japan leader on visit to Ethiopia. China's diplomatic assault on Japan's prime minister moved to another continent Wednesday, as China's top official at the African Union called the Japanese leader a troublemaker just after his free country visit to Africa. Japanese Prime Minister visited Ivory Coast and Ethiopia over the last week, pledging hundreds of millions of dollars in aid and trying to shore up relations on a continent where China has made deep inroads in recent years. Abe's Africa trip follows his visit last month to a World War II shrine in Tokyo that China views as a memorial to war criminals who assaulted the Chinese people. China's ambassador to Ethiopia and its envoy to the African Union said Abe's visit to the shrine was offensive, and he called the prime minister a troublemaker in Asia. The Chinese disdain for Abe's visit here went past the political level. On Sunday, Chinese activists brawled with Japanese embassy security in Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia, as they took pictures of the embassy and protested Abe's visit. Chinese activists had collected signatures from among the thousands of Chinese nationals living in Ethiopia and tried to submit it to the embassy to protest the shrine visit. And then in Addis Ababa told the Associated Press that Chinese construction workers erected a sign or banner that said, "The island belongs to us," a reference to disputed islands both nations claim. The witnesses, who insisted on anonymity out of fear of reprisals, said the sign was taken down before Abe's convoy passed by. Abe on Tuesday told reporters that Japan is in Africa as part of his strategic diplomacy program. Abe announced $20 million in funds for the UN mission in South Sudan. Also noted that Japan has deployed peacekeepers to support the mission there. I'm now reading South Korea cuts future reliance on nuclear power, but new plans likely. South Korea has revised down its future reliance on nuclear power, although growing energy demand and the shutdown of aging reactors mean it's still likely to need more nuclear-fired plants over the coming 2 decades. Asia's fourth largest economy has been under pressure to curb its use of nuclear power in the wake of safety scandal that led to the shutdown of some nuclear reactors to replace parts supplied with fake safety certificates. The Energy Ministry said on Tuesday it has changed its energy policy to reduce the country's reliance on nuclear power to 29% of total power supply by 2035, down from the planned 41% by 2030, and in line with the draft proposal. Nuclear power made up 26% of South Korea's energy mix as at end 2012. The proposed cut is the least stringent reduction of a range of figures suggested last October by a public advisory group, following public anger over the safety scandal and in the wake of Japan's Fukushima disaster. In early December, the ministry unveiled a draft of its policy revision in which the government made clear that nuclear power is still had the role to play and its capacity could not be drastically slashed or expanded. The ministry says the country will need a total of 43,000 megawatts MW nuclear power capacity by 2035, up from 36,000 MW by 2024. South Korea currently has 23 nuclear reactors, which produce about a third of its electricity, and plans to add 11 more by 2024, with five already under construction. For nuclear power to meet its share of future capacity, a further 1,400 MW reactors would need to be built between 2025 and 2035. An Energy Ministry official who declined to be identified told Reuters under the previous plan for nuclear power to make up 41% of total energy supply, South Korea would have needed to add as many as 20 additional reactors, according to industry data. In addition, the operating license for 14 units will expire by 2035, more than half of the current total, although the ministry has yet to announce whether it would extend their operating life or look to replace them. The ministry also said it plans to invest 1.1 trillion won. It's about 94 and 64 cents, $94.64 million in aging nuclear facilities by 2017 as part of efforts to strengthen nuclear safety. The study group had recommended reducing the country's reliance on nuclear energy to between 22 to 29% of its total power supply. Of the country's 23 nuclear reactors, three are offline mainly for scheduled maintenance, including a reactor which is awaiting an extension of its license after its 30-year lifespan expired in November 2012. According to a website of nuclear operator Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power KHNP, ahead of the peak winter demand in January, The country's nuclear regulator early this month approved the restart of three reactors shut since last May to replace control cables. Suppliers using Forged Safety Certificates (KHMP) is fully owned by state-run utility Korea Electric Power Corp.